Drafting another FFPC main event, this time from the 110. That's what we're doing today on Stealing Bananas. I'm Ben Gretch. You can find the Stealing Signals newsletter at bengretch.substack.com. With me, as always, is Shawn Siegele. You can find all of his fantastic work over at RotoViz, including a great new late round wide receiver article. You don't know the names. We have not talked about them on recent shows. But I do know that in all my slow best ball drafts, they're all getting taken, and so I don't get to take them anymore. Thanks, Shawn. How are you doing?
Good. That piece to come out, it's on the site. It was a lot of fun putting it together. But Ben, I want to talk about preseason week 3 or week 4, whatever you want to call it, the final dress rehearsal before the NFL season. I had a lot going on this weekend, a lot of family stuff, just so many different things going back up to Tucson. Next weekend, try and get some house stuff finished up there. And I had a good time watching some preseason games, but I also had a fantastic time reading the Stealing Signals breakdown, and just such a great reminder of what you bring to the table with those pieces, the ones that you are known for, and the reason people need to get that full year sub, not the 1 month variety. Stealing Signals will be coming out Mondays, Tuesday. How does it work, Ben? Tell people how it works for the in-season.
Yeah, Monday. I write about Thursday night football and all the early Sunday games. It's usually, before the buys, it's sometimes as many as 9 or 10 that are in that early window, plus the Thursday night game. It's a longer one on Monday, and I do a big intro, whatever I think the kind of theme was for that week. Tuesday, the late afternoon game, Sunday night football, Monday night football, and then some recap stuff. Part 1, part 2, Monday evening, Tuesday evening. Always make sure to get the second one out by Tuesday evening because people want it for waivers and those things. And it's just a game-by-game breakdown. What's signal, what's noise, recalibrating all of the players in the entire NFL every single week. Just a small project.
I don't know how it's possible. It's always so cool to read the way that you do it. And Ben, also just loved reading, your thoughts about how people are looking at the preseason. If your guy was surprisingly good or played surprisingly early, then obviously you want to take the preseason seriously. If not, then you don't. But you had some great thoughts on.
Yeah, the signal is this was good for my exposures, and the noise is this was bad for my exposures. That's how it works.
Exactly right. So,
well, Shawn, we started at the 110. We were in the early third round already. We're talking here as the draft went back in the second round, spun around, comes back here in the third. We like to take our time a little bit as we get rolling with the stream or the recording. 110. We decided on Malik Neighbors. The guy we were debating there was Brian Thomas. We thought we could maybe push Brian Thomas around the turn. He does come around the turn, but so does Ashton Genty. And we decided, because of some things we like to do tactically at the 3-4, that we might wind up with a 4 wide receiver start if we did go Neighbors Thomas. So we went Genty there. And Thomas fell all the way to the 207, which feels like such great value. I was joking that it would be a nice draft to have been at the 6 or the 7 and been able to scoop that value. I always get a little jealous when we're not in the spots for the awesome sliders of the guys that we really like. So jumping back in, we had a little bit of technical difficulties there. At the 3:10, we were on the clock. We took Travion Henderson. On the way back, we took Teteroa McMillan. Very excited about those 2 picks. We'll talk about them in a second. We are on deck now here in the 5th round. Shawn has moved locations for those of you watching on YouTube. We got a new backdrop. We're hyper speeding around. We will catch up on the first 4 rounds in a moment. I got to get caught up on what these picks might be. What are you seeing on the board right now?
Well, Ben, I mean, the question here is, can you select all rookies and win the FFPC main event?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
we're swiftly heading for RJ Harvey.
Yes. We're going to have a chance at RJ Harvey at 5'10". Shawn, if you get in a room where nobody, like we usually can't get all of our rookie targets, if you get in a room where nobody likes the rookies, you have to take them all. That's the rule.
Let's execute it. We take RJ Harvey there. Then the picks that make sense here, and that hopefully we get one of to come back, is we do need for both of Sam Laporta and TJ Hawkinson to not go in these next 3 picks.
That's right. The other guy that's still on the board is Breece Hall, which I don't really have any interest in taking, but that's a big slide. He's at the 5-6 turn now. I have Harvey ranked ahead of him straight up. I'm happy that we did what we did and took Harvey here. It is some interesting context. But hopefully he provides some cover. And then Travis Hunter's still there. So if the tight ends go, we could just take the other best rookie and more or less just finish out the top 5 of rookie drafts.
Be a fun way to play it. I don't know if it's the best way to play it, but I mean, it would be a high upside lineup if you can manage to make the postseason with that team. Those guys are going to be scoring a lot of points once we get there. Hunter is going fairly late at this point, in all likelihood, because he missed some time, and that's gonna. I think it's important for someone who's still probably a pretty raw receiver, and it's going to freak people out when they're already worried about how many snaps is he going to get? Is he going to play too much on defense? Can we do the whole thing? But yeah, I mean, he's obviously a fun name. But the way this draft is going, he might come back to us in 7.
He actually just went at 601. So somebody else in this room was willing to take a rookie. They looked at our roster, got jealous, got a little mad. We're having too much fun. The parents are in the draft room. They decided to take that fun away. No, I'm with you to get either of Laporta or Hawkinson at this point, but I mean, Laporta at 603 would be a nice faller. He goes at the 508. We are 1 pick away from getting that. If we don't, we will get Hawkinson at this point. So I think I would have been with you that the tight end was the pick, sort of regardless. The 6-7 turn, it is tight end premium. Laporta does go. That's a bummer. But it's still Hawkinson for you, right? Unless you want to go like Devonta Smith.
I think
Flowers, Devonta Smith. The problem with the ADP is, Warren and Njoku, Evan Ingram, and Andrews all go before our next pick if we pass on Hawkinson here, and you really just fast forward into the range where you don't have any great options.
Yeah, you more or less have to take the tight end right here. This has been a weird draft so far. If we had gotten Laporta, then we would have gotten big fallers in Genty, Henderson, Harvey, and then Laporta. As it is, we take Hawkinson right around ADP. You had mentioned to me, Ben, that you have completely flipped and you are back onto not just that Evan Ingram is a possible selection, but that he is more or less a priority target for you.
Yeah.
I think it's possible that he would come back. One of the things when I was kind of mapping this draft out before we started, when I thought we were going to be looking at very different players in most of the rounds to this point, I thought that taking Laporta 5'10 and Hawkinson at 603 would actually be probably the way to do it, in part because of what you just mentioned. Those other tight ends are going to go. Now, in kind of a wild and crazy late night room, this is an 11:30 Eastern draft. Ingram could slip through. There's always that tiny chance that Tyler Warren would come back around. I've been all over the map on David Njoku this season, from not being that interested to feeling like he was a priority pick to really not being that interested again, in part because, I mean, we talk about how you want to be skeptical of preseason games. You want to be especially skeptical of your own beliefs and how that ties into just like one-off performances in a game. But you mentioned, I believe in your write-up, that just because Harold Bannon scored when we knew that he was going to be involved, I mean, they held him out of the previous preseason game with the starters, that we shouldn't go and launch him up boards. I guess because I've had him at multiple points in time through the offseason as like an 11th round pick, even when he was being undrafted, that it's hard for me to not think that he should be drafted really early. And that kind of neutralizes my David Njoku enthusiasm.
Well, yeah, for sure. And I moved Njoku down in part when I was moving Ingram up, and I had Njoku tight end 6 for a long time. I moved Warren ahead of him at a point, and so I now have him at tight end 8 in Njoku. He does go here at tight end 6. In some formats, he's as low as like tight end 10, 11, 12. I just did a home league write-up and looked at some ADP from a bunch of different home league sites over on the newsletter, and I was noticing he goes quite a bit lower, among the tight end position on some of the home league sites, and there's a lot of really interesting takeaways from that I ran into. But the way I would articulate or try to, I tried to articulate, but I don't always articulate things particularly well. The Fannin point wasn't necessarily that he shouldn't rise; it was the touchdown shouldn't be the reason he rises. I was basically saying that people tend to lack imagination, and they sort of they need to see it, and then they see it, and then they go, "Oh my God, this guy's good." And it's like, that's what his profile was. What did you expect? I mean, Travion Henderson has a 100-yard kick return. Suddenly, everybody's like, "Oh my God, Travion Henderson's explosive." Why don't you just look at like his film from last year, his breakaway rush rate, or any of the stuff that says that he's explosive? Or, I mean, and then the other part of it is just, yeah, I mean, even if he doesn't score, you can see that sometimes, but it's only when the guy scores the touchdown or has the big highlight. But sometimes you can see the moments, like I talked a little bit about with Tedero and McMillan, where he burned Derek Stingley on a double move on a 3rd down, made him trip, stumble, and then got behind him by like 2-3 yards. And Andy Dalton had come in. McMillan was still in the game. Bryce Young had gone out. And Andy Dalton's arm got hit. The ball fluttered up, and Andy Dalton immediately put his hands on his head and was like, can't believe I didn't get the ball to him. It would have been a 55-yard touchdown. The whole knock on McMillan was supposedly he can't beat guys deep. He beats one of the very best corners in the league deep, but we don't get the 55-yard touchdown highlight. And I think it's why he's still going in the 4th round. I honest to God think if that ball is put on him, he's going in the middle of the 3rd in every single one of these, if he just scores a 55-yard touchdown. And how crazy is that, right? Like, how crazy is it that one highlight, whether or not Andy Dalton's able to deliver that football, could change his price by a half a round in main events, in high-stakes formats? I mean, if you think Fannin jumps that high from one touchdown, you should be drafting him that high.
I know that you all had the 2nd pick in your draft with Pat and Pete. And so the pick that I was really interested in was what you guys decided to do at the 302.
Yeah, we took McMillan.
And so you're telling me that drafting him at the 403 today, like at least a full round of value.
A full round value. Yeah, no, I mean, that was right after that play, and I was just like, I'm done debating T. Higgins and Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson and Marvin Harrison. I'm just going to take the rookie that, when we did our 1st and 2nd round, Sean, I put him at 109 or whatever it was. I think that's extremely defensible. That's where Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas are going after this year. That's the kind of rookie year I think you should expect from McMillan at this point. That's what Puka Nacua.
I thought you were going to say that it's aggressive. The 109.
No, that's what you thought. You're going to see on this one. Puka Nacua was there after his rookie year. Garrett Wilson was there after his rookie year. That's where he's going to go next year after he puts up 1,300 yards as a rookie. This dude is way too good and such a good fit. And the Canals offense is all about building around like one main wide receiver. He's going to get so many targets. I mean, I have no issue with it. When we got on the clock there in the fourth, you were still kind of navigating a technical issue, and we talked briefly about McMillan or Worthy, and you made a brief comment about, maybe the pick was Worthy if we're worried about having too many rookies. And I said, no, and you said, unless, you prefer McMillan. I said, I still prefer McMillan. And part of that is, I mean, I do think Worthy's volume is going to be very stable too, in a way that people don't understand, but I think McMillan's is going to be fine. I think it's going to be very stable. I don't have that rookie concern with McMillan particularly. I could see how it could be a little bit of a concern with maybe Travion or with RJ Harvey, and there could be some games like that. I don't think it's going to be an issue with Genty either. I don't have a concern with us having too many rookies at this point.
Well, there are a couple quick things to note there. I'm giving you a hard time about McMillan, but we did have him at the 102 throughout RotoViz rookie guide seasons, the 3 different editions there, and we had him in a tier with Ashton Genty, separated from those other guys, including very, very good players like Omari and Hampton and Travis Hunter, players who could easily finish ahead of him, right? So we share that enthusiasm. The other kind of interesting thing here, going back to the options that we already have had, we had a discussion really down to like 2 seconds on Ashton Genty versus Brian Thomas. And Ben, if I had known that we were going to have Travion Henderson and RJ Harvey in 3 and 5, I would have said Brian Thomas all the way.
Right. The main point there that took us off of Thomas, I was in agreement too. And again, going back to that first and second round, you had Brian Thomas as your 102 next year, I believe it was, right? And I thought we were going to really be looking at Thomas. And when we took Neighbors, you had said, then it's just, it's going to be a long wait to see if Thomas makes it back. And then Derrick Henry goes at the turn, and we do get Genty falling all the way back to us. I'm looking at Genty's ADP recently. I mean, this is the latest that he's gone at pick 15 in the last few days in these. If I go for the last couple weeks, the latest he's gone is pick 17, a couple picks after this. Obviously, Thomas went, in this particular draft, he went pick 19, quite a bit after us. But as we were talking through that, the point that you made about Thomas when we got on the clock there with Genty and we ran it way down was, the 3 pick is probably McMillan, the 4 pick's probably Worthy, and then we're looking at maybe 4 straight receivers, and we're looking back at this like we wish we would have gone Genty. Instead, Henderson, who's been going at like 303 in these, goes all the way back to 310 to us. Harvey, who's been going at like 502, comes back to 510. We get some opportunities we didn't expect to have. And as a result, we're doing the opposite of what we were fearing we would do, where we're looking at that number 2, that second round pick, and wishing we went the other direction with the guy we actually wanted, because Brian Thomas would really make this one a fun one. We are back on the clock. I mean, it's already a fun one, but we're back on the clock. And Njoku, Warren, Kelsey, Ingram, Andrews all went. Who do you have here? Did Calvin Ridley not
build? No, I think he must have.
Okay, he must have gone.
With this build, it still seems like, I don't know, it seems like a Jordan Addison, Michael Pittman at the turn.
Addison has been, I'm always comfortable with that.
Both of them will come back if you have a different pick that you like. I don't think that there's another viable selection.
Okay. We should take Addison. You're getting pretty high on Pittman.
Yeah, he's going ahead of Josh Downs at this point. He's going to play all of those snaps. We mentioned a little bit that he played last season injured. The way that Daniel Jones will run this offense, it's going to be Pittman and Tyler Warren. And so, I mean, this is just kind of a fun opportunity to be in on Pittman, someone who not that long ago was going at the 2-3 turn. We've talked about how that wasn't justified, but the 8-11 is pretty absurd. The other possibility there that we could have talked about was Patrick Mahomes. The other day when we were in a flat section here, we took Bo Nix. I guess I wouldn't be completely out on either of those players if we are thinking that Josh Downs has a good chance to come back, and by ADP, and I'm specifically referencing the ADP of just the last 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Downs does have a very good chance of coming back. And so you wouldn't need both of those guys.
That's why I question Pittman. Is not that I don't like Pittman, but for a long time, Downs is going ahead of Pittman this offseason. They flipped, and I think they've now a gap's created where I'm just comfortable playing Downs as the cheaper of the two. Reed goes even behind that, and so that creates another wide receiver out if we then missed on both the Indy guys. Although I don't know where you're at on Reed at this current moment. The word was that he may play week 1, and then he was still sore in his foot. So that's not great to hear. At this point, I mean, I'd be comfortable with Mahomes, but we didn't take Worthy, so it would be unstacked, which I know you don't care about very much. I still in my rankings have Reed and Downs ahead of Pittman, but I mean, that's whatever. The ADP pushes us towards Pittman. We only have Neighbors, McMillan, and Addison. I think it is a receiver pick. Mahomes actually goes there. The other picks are like Jordan Mason and J.K. Dobbins and Tyrone Tracy are vaguely appealing if you don't already have Genty, Henderson, and Harvey, which we do. I have Tucker Kraft as the next tight end. We already have Hawkinson. We don't really need to force that. I mean, it feels like it's Pittman, right? The other guys have more of a chance to come back anyway, even if you did agree to have Downs and Reed ahead. We need to get some receiver depth here.
So let's go ahead and take Pittman. I think that he's a very nice selection for this team. He helps us with that week 1 starting lineup. I'm very comfortable starting all of Genty, Henderson, and Harvey week 1. If you're drafting with those prices, you are drafting them to play them. Obviously, comfortable starting McMillan in week 1. We selected Addison. Obviously, he will not be there. He should be a huge impact player when he does come back, but you need that last starter in Pittman, which then gives you a little bit of flexibility to take more risk on guys but I don't think that you have to avoid getting both of the Colts. They really are that strong of values, and it lets you be wrong on one of them. I mean, you don't really want to be wrong on a pick in this range, but I mean, if one of them is fine and can cover the buys and the other one is a breakout star, then you're set. And again, it also gives us that ability to go after Jaden Reed. It also gives us the ability to just take one of those two guys and try and get Bashal Tutin.
I mean, we'll see what happens with these other rookies. And this is the type of room where it wouldn't surprise us to see Ja'Cory Crossing-Merritt come all the way back. He's usually going around the 8-9 turn these days. Oh, in the latest few days, he's actually been going now into the 7th round, 7-12. Holy cow.
It's crazy. And again, I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but it is a very big rise.
It's got to be wrong. I'll say it. You don't want to say it, but I will. No, I mean, I'll probably be the one that's wrong, but man, that's aggressive. And I'll probably be wrong on that, but I don't know that I would stand by that is what I'm saying. I don't know that that's actually an accurate portrayal of how I feel, but aggressive there. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm sure he'll go, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with the other rookie running backs after we felt like we got a lot of value on the other rookie, the big name rookie running backs. Obviously, we get Genty, Henderson, Harvey. And then
the other thing that I had wanted to mention when I said I did a variety of things and then went down a different rabbit hole instead is that Blair has done some research, and I'm sure other people have as well, suggesting that when you're thinking about risk and rookies, it's actually the really high-priced rookies who tend to pay off for you very well. Now, that's not going to be something where we're saying like every single expensive rookie is going to be a smash play for you. But I think it's natural and intuitive to be a little bit spooked by the early guys when it's really probably the guys in that kind of 8 through 14 range where there is still some opportunity cost and the hit rates are not that good. Where, not that you don't want to pick rookies, I still more or less just tell people they should always pick rookies, but in terms of being calibrated, that's something to be aware of.
And speaking of, the name that I thought you were going to say when you said Bashal Tutin was Luther Burden. He's going in the middle of the 11th, just a few picks before our 11:10. He's going 11:07 in recent days. So we probably would try to see if he could get back to us in the 11th. Just sort of navigating these next couple turns. I have been seeing him go ahead of Jaden Higgins a little bit now.
So moving back in the direction where the slightly better functionality, that's a funny one. The slightly better functionality of the Bears offense, I think, has people raising all of these guys a little. Obviously, Rome Odunze, someone you can feel a little bit more comfortable with now. And although Burden is still more blocked, people are, I think, getting more comfortable with just the immense upside there, even with Zacchaeus kind of in the way. Whereas by contrast, the notes that Higgins is rotating a little bit at his starting position with Xavier Hutchinson, I mean, that's going to give you a little bit of the opposite vibe, even though I think in the long run, like by the fantasy playoffs, I think both of these guys will be scoring well.
You don't actually think Jaden Higgins is a meaningfully worse play because of preseason usage for Xavier Hutchinson?
I'm explaining pricing.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm for my own sanity. Jaden Higgins is a fun one to get some exposure to at this point as he starts to slide a little bit. We'll see if maybe he comes back to us in the 11th.
We're going to have an opportunity for some fun guys here. I had mentioned Tutin, but Scadaboo might also kind of be in the mix. He could come back. His ADP this week has been 907. Bo Nix is still sliding and is the easy overall ADP value at this precise moment. But I think that these main event drafts are just going to continue to be the Wild West and provide a huge amount of entertainment for drafters all the way through opening kickoff. And then, because of the format, for 2 more days after that.
That's right. We'll be doing some Fridays and some Friday and Saturday ones. Shawn, we'll be doing a little big gorilla marathon this week as well. So that'll be fun. We're going to run back our little late August. I mean, we did it as a live stream. I'm sure we'll try to manage that again. But we did the big gorillas sort of overlapping and tried to navigate multiple drafts at once, which was quite fun. Jaden Reed does go head of ADP in this one, or recent ADP. He's been sliding. He does go in the 9th there. Can't fault anyone for taking him in the 9th. Sorry, Shawn, I'm yawning. We get the late night slot here. You're 2 hours later than me, but I'm out here yawning because my kids started school today and we all went to bed really early last night. I was up at 4:30. Back to school.
It's always amusing how, even being 2 hours off, I'm on a much later schedule than you are. We did have the draft paused.
I sent you a bunch of emails this morning and you're like, oh God. Why is he sending me this stuff at 5 a.m. his time? What were you saying about the pause?
It'll be interesting to see if we get any picks rolled back here. The last three were Jaden Reed, Austin Eckler, and Cooper Kupp. Ben, how are you looking at these? How are you looking at Eckler and Chris Rodriguez relative to Ja'Cory Krosky? Merritt, I'll tell you, before you start on that, I have to say that pulling up ADP for just the last 3 days and finding that Brian Robinson is going at 1201, I'm worried that people know something I don't, or that just people don't know that he's on the San Francisco 49ers.
I think people think he's like he's the 1B. So Josh Downs does make it back. We are up. We'll talk through the Washington backfield in a moment. We did take Pittman, and we do have that opportunity to take Downs. I mean, I think because Tootin comes back here, we just take Tootin goes at the 10:01. He goes before our next pick. Scadaboo goes at the 9:07. I kind of try to juggle both of those, maybe. What do you think?
The other thing is that Bo Nix has come all the way back too, but we're not really looking at this as a flat area. I think we take your preferred pick, Scadaboo Tootin.
I've got Tootin one spot ahead of him, Sean. I'm not going to pound the table for either of them.
We'll go with Bashal Tootin there because he gives us another like massively high upside rookie running back to add to the stable.
He is the guy that I snuck into that second round of the. I mean, it just the upside there just seems so exciting. The Liam Cohen offense, all that stuff going through the projection process, not just the pattern matching with him coaching Bucky last year, but the ways the offense works, and then all these rumors of the potential trade. Those trades can still happen, man.
We're right back to where we were around draft time, where everybody's saying that either Bigsby or ETN will go. If they do, then this is multiple rounds too low.
This is easy. Yeah, this is an easy value at that point. So this is the pick to make it at this point in time. Adam Thielen just got traded today. We're drafting that evening for people listening later. Trades are still happening around the league. Cut downs happened, but it's not at all out of the question. Keenan Allen goes right behind us. His price is something else. I mean, his advanced numbers were really bad last year. That's a hefty price to pay in the 9th round. Maybe I'm missing it, but that's the slowest paced team in the league. All the reasons that Ladd McConkey, a true breakout, was not going particularly high for what his profile looked like for a year 2 guy. This is a declining player who declined in 2021 and 2022, rebounded in 2023, maintained that in 2020, rebounded in 2022, and then had a really good 2023, and then falls again in 2024, and the yards per out is that much further down. When you get that rockiness and then the real decline, people are, well, he's with the Chargers again. He's going to be great. I don't think he's good for Ladd, or I don't think it's great for anyone that, they're all in this past game together. I don't see where the Keenan Allen ceiling comes in with a 9-11 price tag. I had a Josh Downs, Sean.
It seemed pretty crazy. I mean, I want to stick up for him and say that he was in a train wreck offense where the first coordinator got fired. Everybody else, would have been fired if that was feasible and still run a team out on Sundays. He was able to take substantial targets away from DJ Moore, who's going very early, and Roma Dunze, who was a sensationalized, top 10 pick and elite prospect a year ago.
Sensationalized.
I don't know where that came from. It felt right as I said it, though. Quinshawn Judkins goes ahead of us. Ben, we got a tough choice here because we have Scadaboo and we have Bo Nix still falling through.
I mean, it would be really a lot of fun to take Scadaboo, but this team does already have Genty, Henderson, Harvey, Tootin. We're probably going to have shots at more rookie running backs later. The Bo Nix slide is, I mean, he's going at the 8-12. We're at the 10-03 now, and we think they're going to score so many touchdowns. We do have Harvey. There's a little bit of a, correlative element there. I'm totally fine with Scadaboo because it isn't flat. To pass on Scadaboo here is tough. So we do go Bo Nix. I kind of let us down there. That sounded like I said let us down. I meant to say let us that direction. Led the horse to water, and Shawn decided to drink. What are you thinking about that pick as you were listening to me?
Well, my first thought was that you let us down. That's an easy Cam Scadaboo selection there. No, this is one of those sort of strange ones where I think we want to. It goes back to this idea of we're a little bit overconfident about how many good players we will need, specifically because so many players, and especially at running back, stayed healthy last season. The flip side of it is that these drafters with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, and Jalen Hurts have potentially such a big edge on us at QB, and other drafters in the sprint will potentially have such a big edge on us in one spot in the starting lineup that when I'm looking at that and thinking about the overall exposure that we will have to Scadaboo, I'm thinking that your general point about what the Broncos will score, how we get this QB slide. Now, something to keep in mind, some of the research that Jake did for us in the past suggests that, QB ADP values don't help you as much as other types of ADP values. You and I have talked about how we're skeptical of even the whole ADP value thing from a variety of perspectives. I would say that I think in some similar ways, you probably don't benefit as much when a QB slides, simply because like the next 10 QBs drafted could also do very impressive things, and they're going to be cheaper. But Bo Nix really is probably a little bit different from the perspective of that offense could be so different. He probably will run some. And in terms of also balancing your weekly performance and, winning these head-to-heads, I certainly wouldn't push for this if Bo Nix, or even really mention it, if Bo Nix weren't already the guy we kind of wanted. But having Harvey and Nix starting together, it does help you a tiny little bit.
It does. And the point of the QB slides is it makes perfect sense in the aggregate, and it's not a reason to just like buy a faller. But I think your point about like when you think that faller is also probably the QB to target in this range, or one of two big ones. Obviously, we really like Drake May as well. But when you start to get these prices on Bo Nix where he's going in the 10th round, I mean, it's been tough with him all offseason when he's been at QB7 and in a lot of the other formats and best ball and things. That's going really high, and the opportunity cost is extreme. And Javonte Williams went 2 rounds ago. We took Michael Pittman 2 rounds ago. Like, we are through a lot of the other picks. I was just complaining about Keenan Allen going where he did. We're out of the wide receiver window for the most part. Those other rookies do slide, and we can potentially try to play Burden or Jaden Higgins in the 11th. But that part of it was flat. The Scadaboo pick was not flat, but there's nothing at tight end that we could have done. And so, I mean, if we're going to pass on a good value pick like Scadaboo that we like to make, I do like that we did it for an ADP slide on a target at QB is the point that you were really emphasizing that I really liked. As you started to talk through that, there's this meme, and I know you're not a big social media guy, but there's the meme of the football player, maybe you've seen it, that got interviewed, and he says, they had to be in the first half, I'm not going to lie. And whenever people write like long messages where the tone changes halfway through, people like to drop this meme on it. You started talking about the overconfidence and how many good players we're going to need in these builds, and we don't realize it yet. And I was like, Shawn, why didn't you just click Scadaboo before you said all this? Because all you're doing is convincing me that we should have taken Cam Scadaboo. But then you pivoted and you convinced me right back that I do think you're right, that Bo Nix was, I mean, I think Scadaboo was a strong pick there too. We had two paths we could have went down. The possibility exists that we'll have access to other interesting QBs later that are going to make us wish that we had just passed on Knicks there. But this Denver offense, we keep talking about it. It seems like it's really going in a positive direction. They're going to play the right guys. It seems like the Ingram stuff. I mean, he has looked great in the preseason. That's part of why I flipped on him. The catch and run for 50 yards. I put something in my preseason week 3 write-up that I emailed over to you the other day as I was writing it up, where I was like, because you had been a little more optimistic on Ingram throughout, and I like to let you know when I'm changing opinions on guys like that, so that when we're drafting and stuff, where I'm sitting. And I sent over the little part of it to you, separate, but there was a 4th down they decided to go for it. All these teams are doing that in the preseason. And Knicks threw to Cortland Sutton. He had one-on-one 50-50 ball, looked to him, went to him, got the completion. It was fine. But Ingram's in the slot, and he does a little like jab step in and gets the linebacker to just fall over himself, steps back around him, and then curls around behind. It's still an in-breaking route, so he gets him to dive in, runs the route around the outside of him, and then gets on top of him. But he's like 2 yards behind him. And I was pointing out to the readers in the write-up, he's like 2 yards behind all of the wide receivers, including how, Sutton's release went and the other receivers on the offense. I mean, Evan Ingram's an athletic tight end, and the ability to get that type of release and that type of separation on a 4th down like that, and the defender is just way off balance, doesn't even get a hand on you, and you're so far beyond him that all the other receivers are jammed and stuff. That's going to show up on film. That's going to be one of those things that they're going to come back to in those types of situations. If he's out here winning one-on-ones on key 4th downs, he just does, to me, especially with the Devon Vele trade was the big one for me. I've talked about the rotational route stuff. Vele runs most of his routes in the slot. Ingram definitely going to play in the slot. It really seemed like a move to free things up even more for Ingram. Peyton's talked more directly and more favorably about him. Maybe I was talking directly and I was wrong, but I had those concerns about whether or not Peyton had confirmed he was the Joker. This Joker stuff is so hard to track, but he very clearly confirmed that recently. I just think the Ingram thing is very favorable. Sutton's going to have another good year. You're going to get the Mims stuff. You're going to get the Troy Franklin stuff. You're going to get Pat Bryant, who looked great in the preseason. You're going to get J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey making plays out of the backfield in a way that they didn't really have last year. Bo Nix's pass numbers are going to be strong, and then he's mobile. I mean, he's a good pick as, a QB7, as you talked about. For us to try to have any chance to keep up with the top 4 QBs, we get him at QB7, but we get him in the 10th round. So we're not taking him right after those 4 QBs go. Such a long gap in those rounds from, the QB4 goes in late 4. We picked Bo Nix in 10, and only 2 quarterbacks went between those 2 ranges. So anyway, exciting to get him on the roster. Scadaboo does go. Dylan Sampson goes. Ollie Gordon went actually in front of Scadaboo. He continues to rise. Higgins and Luther Burden both go. Will Shipley just went off. Names are flying. Guys that we do like. What are you... Is Jaden Blue still out there?
Jaden Blue is still there. I was going to point out that our gamble in some ways has failed or sputtered, because not a ton of QBs have gone in the interim, which, I mean, obviously, as soon as you pick a QB, you're hoping everybody else does as well to push other guys down to you. Jaden Blue was 1 pick ahead of us. I mean, this is a very dark area now.
Do we just take Drake May also?
We certainly can. I think that going ahead and taking a Marvin Mims is kind of interesting. I think that reaching a ton for Keaton Mitchell is kind of interesting. I do think that we could stash Brandon Ayuk on this team like we have on some other teams. So I'm very open to any of those selections.
Yeah, we only have the 4 receivers. I was really hoping to... Yeah, I mean, Mims is one of my very next receivers, and I've been down on him throughout, and you've been trying to get him on one of these teams. So we have Nix here. I think Mims is the pick. If he's running all the routes, he's got the longer term profile. I'm pretty skeptical he's going to run a lot of routes, but he's been doing it in the preseason. So, Sean Payton's preseason usage has been predictive of nothing and ever, but maybe it will be this time.
One of the things I think that it opens us up for is to hopefully also take one of Pat Bryant or Troy Franklin. And then you have two shots at it. And one of the things that you have been, really hammering correctly all off season is that no one has to win. Certainly no one outside of Cortland Sutton and potentially Evan Ingram. I guess I do like the chances, based on how we're describing it, for one other player to end up being really good. And I'm pretty high on all three guys, probably the least high on Mims, certainly relative to price. But I think that tactically in this particular draft, you're really pushed in that direction.
Yeah, no, I mean, it does make sense. And I think it was the right pick there. Man, we got wiped out on good options. Scattaboo, Sampson, Trey Benson, Will Shipley, Jaden Blue, Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins, Braylon Allen, all went since our last pick. I mentioned Ollie Gordon. I don't even know that I would say that I regret taking Nix there. I really like our build, but it does complicate things. It's funny, we were talking about a running back, and in some ways, I'd like to go back and just take Luther Burden because we only do have the 4 receivers, but we go ahead and add Mims as our 5th. Neighbors, McMillan, Addison, Pittman, and now Mims. We're back up here. We wouldn't take Franklin or any of those guys here. I would definitely be comfortable with Keaton Mitchell. Tyler Algier is still there. I mean, very pure handcuff. We're just going to play Nix. We're not going to need to play Drake May, but we do have Travion Henderson, and it's just sort of silly.
Will be Keaton Mitchell here, unless you're Brandon Ayuk.
No, I think Keaton Mitchell's a really fun play here.
The Michael Pittman pick is starting to do a lot of work on this roster.
Yeah, it's looking good. You didn't think there was any merit to potentially taking a second QB there?
I think with how much they've fallen in this draft, and with Kyler Murray probably being the guy, if we didn't take Nix, if we didn't take a non-QB, I think we would need to have taken Murray in this draft and prioritized May for a different draft. And I don't think that you're as excited about that pick. And it's kind of
because Murray's Sorry, I didn't see Murray still there, but Murray's a 10th round ADP still sitting there in the 12th round. May we would have been taking right around ADP. I guess I wasn't checking ADP on that well. Murray does go to the Mayfield drafter, who is now doubled up on 2 fallers. They got Mayfield in the 11th. He was a 9th round ADP. They get Murray in the 12th, a 10th round ADP. QB's definitely fallen in this room.
So, Ben, one of the things I think we want to make sure that we address here is that we are looking toward the possibility and hopefully the likelihood of this being one of those 4 running back teams by the time we get to the postseason, where you're looking at week 13, week 14, and then the sprint, and the types of projections that you're going to get at RB1, RB2, flex 1, and flex 2 are in that 15 point per game range. Now we have 3 guys where very clearly they could do it. And then you have Tootin, who obviously would be able to do it if he were this year's Bucky Irving. And then, we certainly hope that Derrick Henry stays healthy. And probably the individual projections wouldn't ever have Keaton Mitchell quite that high, but certainly his individual game upside when you think about someone who might be, maybe he's just a week 17 slot into the starting lineup, but could have, 350-yard touchdown runs. This is the way that I am starting to feel this lineup develop. And it's possible that Ayuk would come back around to us. And then you're building out a lot of sort of mid-season and late season flexibility. You're hoping that Jordan Addison starts to make an impact in week 4. It's possible that with Ayuk, you have him come back week 6, week 7, somewhere in there. Maybe he's not right until week 12, 13. Maybe you don't actually ever feel comfortable playing him until week 16 and 17, but those are going to be the weeks for the $1 million. Speaking of the $1 million, Brandon Aubrey drafted 12-11.
Hit the 12.
So, Ben, what are you seeing here? After our pick, we get Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford, Isaac Tesla, a very aggressive Tesla. It seems like we're supposed to hold that last A long time.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Drake May, Brian Robinson, and Trevor Lawrence. We finally do get that QB run. And it's a little bit too late for us, but perhaps that will still help us with some guys coming back here in round 13.
What do you think about Isaac Tesla in the middle of round 12? He had an incredible preseason. They didn't play any of their starters in any of the games. He was out there with the backups, playing incredibly well. They traded away Tim Patrick, but the drum, it wasn't even really like a camp drum beat. It was more of a fantasy community drum beat. First touchdown, everybody's excited. Second touchdown, everybody's going nuts. Third touchdown, it's like, one of those mind-blowing scaling up memes. I'm doing the Twitter meme thing again, but people are just going nuts and going nuts and going nuts. Oh my God, he scored again. He scored the third time. Oh my God, now they traded Tim Patrick. Oh, let's take him in the first round. At this point, he's a superstar, except for the part where Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Jamison Williams, none of those guys have played a snap with Isaac Tesla. How's he going to take all their volume? That's the part where I don't understand the play.
No, it's kind of hard to figure, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't work. And that wide receiver is a talent-based, a skill-based position. When I wrote this up, I put him down as the super rare wide receiver handcuff. And just thinking about it from the perspective of he would need an injury. And then, so I think what's going to happen is they're going to play. He's not going to play much. There's no route to him scoring. And then he gets cut. And then in the really unfortunate situation that someone on their starting lineup does get hurt, then you're going to see these $500 bids. And maybe at that point, it could pan out. His production in college wasn't just minimal. It was non-existent. And yet he's big, he's athletic, and you do have to give some credence to how he's playing now and how he's impressing the coaches. Dan Campbell said it's hard to develop rookies. We know that a lot of wide receivers never develop. It's hard to develop those rookie wide receivers. He's ahead of the curve. They traded a ton to get him, which is something that I didn't necessarily track
I didn't either.
that closely at the time, just because it seemed so, they traded a lot, which, it's absurd. And yet sometimes you go all in on something where you would need a 99th percentile outcome for it not to be absurd. And you get the 99th percentile outcome. And then you can look at everybody who doubted you and be like,
you're an idiot.
Yeah. I know everything. So, it's fun to be able to do that.
That's what I was thinking I would be able to do when I led us astray. What was the phrase that I used when I took us to the bonus pick?
Ben is letting us down.
Let us down, yeah. The guy I'd like to take at this 13-14 turn the most here, Sean, is probably Harold Fannin. We only have the one tight end. 20 have gone. Zach Ertz already went off a little ahead. Or I guess he was behind ADP. That doesn't seem right. Fannon's going in the early 15th, so I don't think we can play him to come all the way back to 15-10 if we do want him. And you just suggested earlier that he's going to be the guy to have in all of the leagues. Both the guys behind us have 2 tight ends. Is there something else you wanted to do maybe first before that or at this turn?
I think so. I mean, it's going to contribute to the massive Harold Fannin rise, but I think you just get in there and don't have to worry about it. The other name I was going to pitch to you, we could take. So the injury values now on Spears and Ayuk are starting to get fairly substantial. The other name, who really is just a handcuff, but is perfectly decked out and positioned to be a fantasy star in the right situation, is Taj Brooks.
Taj Brooks is a super fun pick.
He's going 14-12 this week.
I love the list of wide receivers you named, and I've been taking a lot of Ayuk, and so part of the reason I've been hesitant there is like this feels like a team where we could take Malik Washington and Jalen Coker, and maybe they take a peek, Keandre Lambert-Smith, and Jalen Royals a little bit banged up right now, but I mean he could be a take a peek if he can get healthy, with obviously Rice suspended now. Anyway, there's several different ways to go here. I'm not sure I have a strong opinion. I'm going to defer to you on this. I don't mind taking Ayuk. You've mentioned him a few times. I think he does fit. We have just the 5 wide receivers. Coker is another one that, is obviously healthy, and I think is, after the Thielen trade, pretty exciting. You went ahead and grabbed Taj Brooks there. I do really like that pick as well. That's a guy that we have enjoyed discussing quite a bit throughout the offseason. That's a fun one.
And it allows us to continue with our theme of, can you just draft all rookies?
All rookies.
In the FFPC main event. We didn't want to go off the rails there with stash picks that may just make our waivers maneuvers over the next month trickier than they need to be.
That's what I was thinking with all these rookies.
Yeah.
It's tough.
The other thing that's just such a bummer for me is that, I have so much Spears, and now he's going to miss meaningful time.
Yeah. I was thinking that he may not actually go to IR, and I was buying the dip a little bit, but that dip is going to get pretty far. In our draft the other night on ship chasing, Spears was falling quite far. Can't remember exactly where he landed, but it was multiple rounds further than I anticipated. In recent days, the tool on RotoViz shows that he's been going 1302. We just passed him in the early 14th. Shawn, I wouldn't be surprised if, I certainly think he's live to make it back to 15-16. I wouldn't be surprised if he made it back to our 17th pick. I probably would at that point. But what do you think about a receiver like a Coker that potentially has the ability to produce a little bit earlier? Addison suspended. Neighbors, McMillan, Pittman. Yeah, we can fill a starting lineup. That's all you need.
You're going to make a lot of moves. I think that one of the things to not get too wrapped about in redraft is the structure of your bench. I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all, but you want to get the best players so that you can keep a hold of them as you go through, and then you can address positional needs a little bit, through that waiver wire, and really make a big splash potentially at a position of need if that develops. It doesn't every year, but it certainly happens. I remember the year that I bid $958 on Alfred Morris, and he was the thing that you had that you had to have. And then just a couple years
Not,
ago, we bid
yep.
900 on Puka, and it was the thing you had to have. And so those opportunities arise. When you're in the draft, you want to make sure in this back half that you take the guys who have the most chance to develop or to deliver league winning types of seasons. For me, the Coker thing is really interesting. I did write him up. I think he's much more athletic than people realize. I mean, he played at a small school, but then, I mean, he wasn't just good in college, he was extraordinary. And then last year, he was good. It is a little bit trickier for me to see like the true league changing outcome for him. But it does seem like someone like a Troy Franklin, who was also just a fantastic, fantastic prospect and is going to be in a much more explosive offense. I go back and forth on the Panthers. I think that I'm so excited about Bryce Young and Tetairoa McMillan that, part of balancing that and just trying to stay at a level that makes sense for what the reasonable outcomes are for this team, then I end up having to pull back on some other guys. And maybe it won't work out that way. Maybe Jalen Coker and McMillan actually score in the same range this season. Now that would be bad for this particular team. So
Well,
that's a
you
little bit of
also
part
have
of
to
it for me too.
you also have to remember that it's after my bedtime, and I forgot that Tetairoa McMillan was even on this roster. So that's a key point. The discussion.
We haven't inadvertently drafted a running back handcuff yet in this one. So
Yeah,
on the right track.
we're going well on that. Troy Franklin goes. Dante Thornton goes. The names off your list starting to go. I cite Taj Brooks over DJ Giddens there. We talked about Giddens a lot, a guy you really, really liked in the pre-draft process. And I told you, I went and watched him and thought he maybe like glided a little or something. And you've brought it up like 6 times since. And I think you think that I hate him. Was that why we didn't take DJ Giddens there? Or have you moved Taj Brooks kind of ahead of him?
Slash is going earlier. And so from that perspective, it kept open an additional compelling pick, 15, but he did go. And so we're a couple picks away. And I know you don't want me to bring these guys back up, but in terms of stash and see what they are, I am still very interested in Brashard Smith and Jarquez Hunter. I know that you have basically moved Jarquez Hunter out of your top like 100 running backs.
I have. Brashard Smith is very draftable to me, and Tyjae Spears is still there, and I thought that's what you were going to say about not bringing somebody back up, but Ayuk did go. I would also, at a certain point, I would love to grab Malik Washington for this build because we both kind of agree that could be pretty exciting. Well, I think we'll get some early information there that could be really helpful to this build. It seems like, but I'm worried about our receiver depth, Sean. If Marvin Mims runs the routes that I think he's going to run, and Addison's suspended, we have 3 receivers. But let's go running back here because I don't think we need to do that pick quite yet.
So we'll take Smith. We get a chance to see if he's going to be involved in week 1. We can potentially just cut him even after that first game and pick up another player if he doesn't play at all. And if he does play, or we could even consider putting him into the lineup there. Ben, with who our quarterback is on this particular team, and the reason I put Smith in there is that Pat Bryant does have a lower ADP. Are you comfortable coming back with our second Denver Bronco and
want to do Pat Bryant?
Eventually getting off of whoever looks like the bust? You're like, oh my God, there are so many Broncos on this team.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying in terms of like tactically The fact that Franklin goes is a bummer because I would have liked to do it with Franklin. I think Bryant looked awesome in the preseason. It just seems like he's going to be, but I don't know. That's your point, and that's a good point. But man, I just want to use these spots on the fun wide receivers. I don't know why Pat Bryant's not fun, but let's do it. Let's take Pat Bryant. I think it makes sense to get that exposure to the different Denver pieces and see what we have, and then you kind of go from there. We have the Bo Nix build. We have RJ Harvey. We're definitely approaching this from a very Denver positive perspective. Maybe we'll still get a shot at Malik Washington on the way back. He's going in the 19th round.
He's the guy that I think we definitely want to come out of this with. I don't really understand his ADP, but I'm also not wanting to jinx it with a few, a week and a half of drafting remaining. If we know that Tyreek Hill is a head case and is injury prone, at least in terms of nagging injuries, we know that Jalen Waddle frequently goes out of games. And I mean, Waddle hasn't missed a ton of time in his career, but again, just out constantly with these smaller types of injuries. We have to apply the same logic to Malik Washington that we're applying to some other players at the receiver position. But Washington is basically set up to be this year's Jonnu Smith, and you didn't need the tight end premium scoring for Jonnu Smith to have been a viable pick in the rounds that we're currently inhabiting.
Right. And I mean, for people who think that's a little bit of a bold take, that's sort of his whole profile, first of all. Second of all, I mean, you were talking about him last offseason, and I was telling you it was going to be too concentrated on offense and these things. And that's part of the reason I've been into him a lot. But at the end of last season, he did finally work his way into a pretty meaningful role. He had 20 targets, 16 catches over the final 4 games. But then for anyone who was watching the preseason, it's easy to just be like, yeah, well, Tyreek Hill wasn't in there. Yeah, I mean, he was playing the Tyreek Hill role. Well, Tyreek Hill may not be in there at times based on the fact that Tyreek Hill is a crazy person.
He doesn't want to play for the Dolphins.
Yeah. And I mean, if he's not in there, what they did in the first preseason game was give the ball to Malik Washington basically every play. Jalen Waddle was still running the vertical routes, and Malik Washington was the one doing all the stuff around the line of scrimmage and the quick passes and all that stuff. But it wasn't just like jet motion. It included him running routes. He converted a 4th down with a quick out pattern. It was the like Tyreek Hill stuff about like motioning and then running into space, little sit down routes, all these types of things. It's a lot of short targets, short completions, presumably some potential for big plays as well. But the big thing is, I mean, in PPR, people loved it. Oh, it's a PPR scam, whatever. But there's the possibility for 8-10 catch games fairly straightforwardly. And he's a really good ball in hand player. I mean, it could be big. It could be also impactful in the green zone, in the red zone, in the short area. That's what Jonnu Smith brought as well. That's why, we've talked favorably about Devon Achane. He gets a lot of those quick hit passes as well. They like to use those passes to the perimeter as their, short yardage rushing attack in some ways. It wouldn't be a huge surprise if Malik Washington ran an above average touchdown rate for a guy with a low ADOT. That's what we saw from Jonnu last year. That's what we saw from Devon Achane last year. Talk about a bunch of catches, solid number of TDs, some ball in hand ability to maybe get some yardage efficiency. It wasn't just the first preseason game. The first preseason game was massive, but then in the third preseason game, he's catching a bunch of balls from 2 as well. I mean, guy was, if you're watching the preseason, was a big part of what they were doing offensively in multiple preseason games. So when Tua was out there with, the games that Tua was in and playing, I don't think he could have completed more passes to anyone else. I think this preseason, Tua has to have completed more passes to Malik Washington than any other player on the roster. I don't have that stat in front of me, but it's just an estimate, if you will. But Talk about guys that had good preseasons or going into the season with a good spot, all those kinds of things. I mean, that's what Isaac Tesla is going in the 12th round now. Well, Malik Washington did all that stuff in the preseason as well. Tesla did it all with the backups. None of the starters were on the field, including Jared Goff. Malik Washington, yes, Tyreek was out, but Tua was in. Jalen Waddle was in for the third preseason game. He was not for the first preseason game. But anyway.
When Tua was out there, he was throwing the ball to Malik Washington, which certainly was exciting. Ben, how do you feel about the second pick? I mentioned that maybe Coker isn't as strong a fit with the McMillan play. We do have some fun options, or we do have Bryce Young, who could be a second QB. I don't think we need to go that route necessarily. If we get Washington here, they're the other sort of take a pick guys and Jalen Royals and Keandre Lambert-Smith. I don't know if one of them appeals to you with the idea then of actually replacing them pretty early. I don't know if grabbing someone like a Harrison Butker so we did all that talk about Malik Washington. We're not going to risk him going in these couple picks in between.
The truth is, Sean, you were building this queue. It looks great. All I could think about was Malik Washington. He's now on the roster, so I think you should figure out the week 18 pick. Who from this queue appeals to you? You got a couple tight ends here, Pat Freiermuth, Jatavian Sanders. You've got the other rookies, Alec Manor. I don't think we need to do Coker on this build because we do have McMillan. I don't know. I mean, maybe you make that directional bet, but I think you brought up a lot of interesting names here. I could see any of it. I could see a third tight end. I could see the take a peek wide receivers for sure.
Well, this can be sort of a bigger conversation after our selection. I think it probably should be Royals or Lambert-Smith.
Yeah.
These are the two guys we took in the last draft for a similar reason.
How beat up is Royals health-wise? He had some knee tendonitis, I thought I saw.
Yeah. Let's actually go with Harrison Butker here with the idea that we will potentially get both of those guys even to come back to us.
Okay.
I mean, this is always a famous last words kind of situation where this entire 8-9 guys deep gets wiped out before it comes back. Lambert-Smith, though, not currently being drafted and is pretty appealing.
He's my favorite one. I was pushing with the ship chasing guys, and basically any draft I do, I want to get him on there because he was really. I mean, he was talk about somebody who was running with the first team and doing really well in the preseason. Why didn't you want Butker over Kim Little? Kim Little just went off.
No, I felt like it was time to switch it up a little bit, get some Kansas City action in there. Then we've gone pretty heavy on some of the elite place kickers in the past, and place kicking actually helped us a decent amount last season with some Brandon Aubrey, with another couple of the guys who were scoring a bunch of points. Who was the other kicker who scored just an avalanche of points for us a year ago?
Yeah. I'm going to look it up. It's bugging me. Dicker, right? Cameron Dicker we had?
He had a good stretch for us. It almost still feels like it was a different name, but I wouldn't ignore
the other top ones were Boswell and Chase McLaughlin and Jake Bates for the Lions. I don't think it was any of those dudes.
No, Chris Boswell scored a lot of points for us.
Oh, was it Boswell? Yeah.
So
he ended up having a huge game in the postseason. I thought I was thinking of he was bad in the postseason. but he was chalky because he had such a good regular season. I was thinking of him in context of the FFPC Playoff Challenge. Always a really fun contest. But yeah, Boswell was a fun kicker last year. Kicked a lot of field goals.
So Jatavian Sanders goes at 1809 as the tight end 30, which frankly is pretty surprising. Darren Waller probably fits into that category of weird Dolphins players who aren't set up that well for the season. Elijah Arroyo, someone who at this price is an interesting second half of the year guy. You probably end up cutting him, but you can say that for a lot of the picks here. Ben, you had been mentioning Cade Otton to me, I think, in some context, but I believe he has now gotten injured. The pick that I had, I mean, it seems like all the Bucks are injured, right? They're not having the greatest little run out right here.
No, I'm hearing Emeka Ibuka is going to catch a pass every play.
He's not a bad pick, although he did go ahead of DJ Moore in today's draft, which, wow. I mean, DJ Moore is not a great pick, so maybe that is exactly how it should be. Isaiah Likely was maybe the pick I would have preferred with the 1403, which would have given us a really high upside tight end group of Hawkinson, Fannin, and Likely, and perhaps would have made more sense than another rookie running back right there.
Probably in hindsight, the pick there actually was Franklin, who went 1505. You could have had.
So you're feeling there's a pretty big gap right now between Franklin and Pat Bryant.
No. Well, I mean, it's just me being too precise on the way that I think he's going to use the different roles. But the Franklin stuff does seem like it has the potential to have some real routes behind it. And Bryant, I think, does too in the Vele role from last year. But I mean, when he got his extended run in the preseason, it was when Sutton was out, and it just felt like the Sutton handcuff.
So there's some handcuff upside, which is very rare at receiver, but would be exciting. There's also this element that I think Pat Bryant gives them over the middle that Franklin and Mims probably don't. Now, you don't have to have that, right? I mean, there are other paths to scoring.
You kind of do with the Lil Jordan Humphrey and the Vele. But isn't that Evan Ingram now?
Yeah, but I think Pat Bryant's going to give it to you deeper down the field. Okay. He's that intermediate middle guy. And if he can be that, they're going to use him because that is just magic for contemporary offenses that struggle to get like any meaningful chunk plays in the passing game.
I mean, all Sean Payton ever wants to talk about is size at wide receiver. And he talks about, and the playing time backs it up. Vele was second on the team in routes. When he missed 4 weeks, Lil Jordan Humphrey's route spiked. Lil Jordan Humphrey, the little is not an accurate prefix. He's a big guy. He ran a ton of routes in the games that Vele was out and had a meaningful role for a few weeks. And ended up, I think, third among the wide receivers in routes. And then Franklin and Mims were more rotational. When they first drafted Bryant, and you were talking about him a lot during rookie draft season, that's what I was envisioning, was that he would be in that Vele role. And neither Lil Jordan Humphrey or Vele is on the team anymore. So that's very plausible. It's just that, to me, where I've gotten with it is I'm worried that Ingram's going to run a lot of those routes, and Bryant is being viewed as more the backup to Sutton. And again, I mean, I'm probably trying to be way too precise. Like I said, it's a very complicated, whatever roles you want to call them. I mean, I do think there are roles in the ways that Sean Payton does his offense. He does a lot of different personnel groupings. He uses the different types of roles and the different personnel groupings, the different types of play calls and things that he does. He's fitting players in roles to these different things. It's all very orchestrated. So I don't think, like, sometimes we do that way too much with coaches where we're like, oh, this guy's playing that role and this and that and the other thing. With Sean Payton, there's a long tendency here. But probably I'm being a little bit too exact in terms of how that's all going to, piece together.
In the end, it probably will come down to just how good he ends up being, or that they think he is. Uh, all right, both of our guys are here. KLS, Jalen
Yeah.
Royals.
What do you know about
Royals,
the Royals? Because with
just
Rasheed Rice out, it would be Royals if he's definitely going to play. Do you know if he's definitely going to play?
let's take him and make an adjustment in that
Later,
Wednesday waivers.
if needed. Got it.
Yeah, and try and flip it to Lambert Smith, who again probably won't go in this draft. And so you have that opportunity to even make the pre-week 1 move.
I like that. Yeah, Lambert Smith, I was saying he's one of my favorites for the take a peek. He was getting looks from Justin Herbert in the preseason, worked his way into like first team reps ahead of Trey Harris. I know it's hard for people to think, oh, a 7th round rookie is going to play on the first team ahead of the, what was Harris, 2nd round rookie, ahead of Quentin Johnston, the incumbent. But if you watched it,
than those guys.
He's better than those guys. Yeah. That's exactly where I was going to go with it. It's just not a question. He's better than
them. And Ben, it was kind of a 1-year wonder thing, but he is very athletic and he was good at a lot of different things, right? At the catch, getting vertical, running after the catch. His, college highlights, again, focusing on that last season, are fantastic. You pull up some of these guys who were really good last year and you're like, okay, I mean, it's college football, fine. Keandre Lambert Smith looked like a clear NFL player. And then you have those preseason snaps again with the first team, and not just like numbers, but sensational sideline catches.
Yeah.
I mean, those don't grow on trees.
No. Smoothness to it. I mean, he looks really good. I think Trey Harris could still be a player, but there's a lot about, where he came from and what so we got to take a pick here. I think the Rams was Leone's back up to Arizona because their defensive line's so good and they get a decent week 1 matchup. Is the defense that I don't see out here yet that we could potentially take. Who do they play in week 1?
Got the Texans. I was going to go ahead and just click the Chargers and then move off of them because almost every team has a defense. I think maybe every team has a defense.
They do. Yeah. That's fine. Let's do that. Because we could do the take a peek and we can move off of that for the Rams or someone else. The Bengals are the one that no one wants to pick because their defense is so bad, but they also get to play Joe Flacco in week 1. And so, what are you going to do? But yeah, I was just saying, I think Trey Harris, they were talking about his offense being a little bit gimmicky and, probably just needs a little bit more developmental time. It's not like he can't be good. And, he has a draft capital and they're invested in him. But if he's not ready, he's not ready. And if Keandre Lambert Smith is ready, he is ready. And if Quentin Johnston still can't make contested catches, then that's where you're at. I mean, that's the issue. But we are done, Sean. We go Malik Neighbors, Ashton Genty in the 2nd round. Kind of wish it was Brian Thomas, Travion Henderson, Teteroy McMillan, RJ Harvey, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, Michael Pittman, Bashal Tootin, Bo Nix, Marvin Mims, Keaton Mitchell, Harold Fannin, Taj Brooks, Brashard Smith, Pat Bryan. Yes, we can fit another Denver Bronco on this roster. Malik Washington, Harrison Butker. Yes, we can fit another Chief on this roster. Jalen Royals. Just kidding. We can fit another Chief on this roster. And the Chargers defense. How do you like it? I think this is one of our better ones. I really like it.
It's got to be the most fun one, right? You get almost exclusively rookies. And unlike in a lot of situations, you get them at good prices. You put those two things together and you have a ton of upside. I like that at the onesie positions, we have Hawkinson and Nix, non-rookies who will hopefully allow us to really put together that elite starting lineup. And then the contingency-based upside in our double-digit picks at both running back and wide receiver is pretty substantial. And I think this roster is set up to win immediately, but it is also set up to get a breakout or two and then be able to shuffle other guys off of that in a way that allows us to continue to bolster our overall depth as the season goes along.
Yeah, super, super fun team. Like you said, a lot of upside in the back half. I mean, I'm really glad we got Fannin on this team. We had to pay up a little bit on him, but I mean, at that point, it's not the biggest cost to be reaching at 13-10 a little bit to grab a guy. We get Brashard Smith, we get Pat Bryant, we get Malik Washington on this team. A lot of fun picks. Keaton Mitchell's on this squad. Bayshal Tutin's on this squad. I just love the start. That's the part that is so exciting. It'll be very fun to watch Genty. I'm really hopeful that he's not the piece that kind of sinks this, because we haven't taken a lot of him. And he's the one guy that, obviously such an incredible profile, could be massive for this build to get him at a price that is pretty low for him at 203. At the same time, as we talked about, if we knew we were going to get Henderson at 310, Harvey at 510, we'd probably just go with Brian Thomas there. Start Neighbors, Brian Thomas, and then McMillan's your third, and then we're off to the races. But if Genty crushes, you're talking about Henderson and Harvey, and suddenly we have some really deep running backs. You talked about this could be the team that you're starting 4 running backs in the sprint, Tutin, or whether that's Keaton Mitchell or Taj Brooks or somebody else. We're able to add to Harvey and Henderson and Genty. We may have a 4-starter situation in the key weeks, and we're just starting 2 receivers and 1 tight end. Both of our flexes at that point would be running backs. That is very feasible. Alternately, if our running back depth doesn't pan out, Neighbors, McMillan, and then Addison and Pittman after Addison's back would be a path. If we get Harold Fannin, we could still be talking about flexing tight ends with this build with Hawkinson and Fannin. Obviously, Mims and Pat Bryant are now stack options. Malik Washington, Royals, different paths at depth receiver as well. If Addison or Pittman aren't the guy, you see a lot of the different redundancies in the ways that we built that this team can get there a lot of ways. What we're going to be doing at flex is not necessarily clear. A lot of the time, we talk about winning the flex. I think we're going to be able to do that, but in 2025, in some ways, to win the flex, you want to be able to have multiple outs and multiple paths and make smart picks, as you were talking about during the draft, sort of regardless of position, and then figure out what positions you need to attack on the waiver wire. There's a little bit more balance to it, I think, than we're usually doing. A lot of times we're hitting certain positions for long stretches. We're bouncing around a lot here. For a lot of other people, they're saying, well, this is just a normal draft. That's what normal people do when they draft. But what we did, Shawn, was take a lot of rookies to make it a little bit less normal. You get that question, how many rookies are too many rookies? Well, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 20 picks, and the kicker and the D. I guess the kicker could have been a rookie, but 10 out of the 18 non-kicker and defenses were rookies. I think it's great. I love it. It's a great team.
This one, if we can play back after winning the $1 million, we'll have that extra little bit of joy with it. We appreciate everyone listening along with us tonight. And obviously just whatever time you do listen to it. And we hope you will join us for the Big Gorilla Marathon on Friday, Ben. I believe that's 11, 12, 1, and 2 Eastern. Subtract 3 hours off of that for folks like Ben on the Pacific Coast. Those drafts overlapping should be a blast. We only timed out once last year, Ben, when I think at one point we had 3 drafts going simultaneously. We'll see you guys soon and hopefully live on Friday. We love you. Talk to you soon.